It's become a business now. It's become a business. You know, that is the degree of talent that you possess near as important to you as the publicist you have? I mean, for somebody to last like a long time like that, it's really hard to, you know, not many acts can make it over 10, 15 years before they kind of disappear. When I started out, when I was starting out in the thing and finding out from Sonny Osborne and some of these guys talking about, you know, their goals that they were trying to do with their records they released, back then if you had a hit record, you could play off of it for 10 years. Nowadays you can't even play off of it 10 months. The whole thing's different. It's not necessarily sales and marketing of the product now seems to be almost as important as the degree of talent that it's selling, if not more important than the talent that it's selling. A tough deal these days. And the other part of it, again, you've got a lot of people who are, you know, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful pickers, but that's what they are. They're pickers. They're not musicians. The commercial potential on something, I mean, what would the commercial potential of Elvis Presley been without Tom Parker being there? How many people out there are capable of being a star? You know, that's a whole different deal when you get into that. When you get into the celebrity that creates that whole thing there, you know, look at the demeanor. I mean, look at Monroe and how his entire life, how statuesque he was. The way he stood, the way he carried himself. It's work being a star. You know, when I saw Leon Russell, when I first was around him, I mean, he was the top grossing U.S. act, traveling rock and roll act in this country. And he ran from it. He ran from it. And that's why he went for a lot of years in his life. You know, Elton John came along at the end of his career, so to speak, at least in the sunset of it, if not the twilight of it, and got him in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And something you ought to do is go on YouTube out there and watch his acceptance speech, where he talks about Elton John coming by and finding him laying in a ditch alongside the road of life and taking him back out to those high places where he could play for the big audiences again. It's hard being a star. And once you've got one there, once you've become that star, it's even harder maintaining it, especially for several decades. That's a tough thing. Oh, yeah, rock and roll just damn near put them all out of business. You know, as Ralph Rensler and Carlton Haney, basically, Ralph Rensler reorganized him, and Carlton Haney created the venues for him to come back in those bluegrass festivals. It's just like with Roy Acuff out there. How many people, Roy Acuff got bigger than the Grand Ole Opry. He quit the Grand Ole Opry for a couple of years. He went to Hollywood and made movies. One of the proudest things he had in his dressing room was a picture of him on Broadway, Roy Acuff and the Smoky Mountain Boys at some Broadway theater, and their front act was Ronald Reagan. You know, and he came back at one time. I think he and Fred Rose actually owned the Grand Ole Opry. At one time, they found him sitting at the head of the board of directors of the National Life and Casualty Insurance Company. I know that.